With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
PRL Indycar racing is officially back. The long-awaited return at Spa last week saw Dave Menino take the first PRL Indycar win in nearly 7 years, but now we travelate from the undulating hills of the Ardennes Forest to the absolutely no hills of the middle of Overland Park, Kansas. PRL Oval Indycar racing is here as RaceSpotTV welcomes you to the second race of the 2025 PRL Indycar Fix Series. My name is Joey Tebben. Joining me in the booth is Ewan O'Leary, and behind the scenes on Sound and Pictures is Mr. Hugo Luis. Ewan, it is a very, very different sight from Spa last week. It's a very different oval, one that we don't see IndyCars race on in the real world. It's a whole new challenge for this entire grid.
It is, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it's going to go. Last time IndyCars raced around here, I think, was the early 2010s, and so it's been a very, very long time. You don't see it anymore, but glad to be along for round two and the start of what's going to be a very mixed schedule. As you said, the opening round was at Spa last week, the only round outside of North America, and it's one of, I think, fairly few sort of conventional Grand Prix road courses. All the other road courses, like coming up next week at Lime Rock Park, they're very American, I would describe them. At Lime Rock in particular is going to be very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised to see less than 1 minute lap times around there.
Yeah, nearly half oval, half road courses. It's 5 road courses and 4 ovals. So you've got to be good at both if you want to succeed here. We're already seeing a little bit of mixed up stuff in the practice timesheets right now. The drivers who were very fast at Spa last week, including your winner, Dave Menino, they're a little bit further down the order as they're trying to figure out oval racing. And as I mentioned, Dave Menino, victorious last week, only his second win in the PRL. And he has a narrow championship lead as the PRL point system works. Jake Vasconcelos second, narrowly behind him. J.R. Williams and Richard Regan Jr., neither of them will be on the grid tonight. Both of them had other commitments. They weren't able to make it here, so this will be their drop week. You're only allowed to drop 1 week in this championship. That leaves them no wiggle room for the rest of the season now.
Yeah, really important to make sure you try to attend all the races, because the chances of you not having a bad race are really, really small over the course of 9 rounds on very varying circuits. And in any case, there's probably a round that you're just not very good at, a track you're just not very good at. So you ideally do need to get to all the rounds if you are going to win the title. It's going to be very interesting, though, that from the early indications in practice here, none of the drivers really who did well in Spa last week, who you can see there in your top 10, are really doing very well in the practice session. So it's going to be very, very different, that's for sure.
The team standings, we have a couple of super teams entering the series this season. SRT has 2 full teams, the orange and the green team, both of them fairly equal at the top of the point sheets. Precision Racing, Solpec Precision Racing, they have a full squad of cars. Regenboog Motorsports has a full squad of cars. Everybody else, Hyperion Racing has a full squad of cars, but there's a lot of teams that have 1 or 2 cars that are going to need to do a lot of work if they want to take the fight to 2-3 car armadas up at the top of the sheets. Qualifying is currently underway here at Kansas, but before we can take you into that, we've got to thank all the people who make the PRL IndyCar Fix Series possible. Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with true force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. Use code PRECISION5 at checkout on logitechg.com for 5% off your purchase. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with the Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. All right, qualifying on a very gray and dark day here in Kansas. Underway, the dying moments are just now ticking over. We do already have the starting grid for you. Josh Conker, driver who started on pole at Spa last week, now has a 100% pole streak in an Indycar in the PRL. He'll start alongside his teammate James O'Brien, another very, very strong oval driver in the PRL. Jordan Kernow and Indica Scarlet round out row number 2, two new names to the PRL. Matt Long, a PRL Cup champion in his own right, starts alongside the Indianapolis native Josh Chinsky on row number 3. P7, Patrick Cowgill, PRL Truck Series champion. He starts alongside Ken Miller. Brett Punkari, an oval master in his own right, starts alongside Daniel Kranifus. Mark Kalin, 11th for Precision Racing Blue. And last week's winner, Dave Menino, starting in the middle of the field in 12th. Mark McDonald, unlucky 13th, alongside last week's runner-up Jake Vasconcelos. Steve Baker, fastest in practice, but maybe had a little bit of help from the draft as he puts it 15th in qualifying alongside Greg Seitz. Nathan Ray is 17th, and Richard Swindells, an open wheel regular in the PRL, good to see him in 18th. Jean-Marc Cormier, representing French Canada, starts alongside Brandon Walter. Guillaume Potvin starts alongside Brett Thurman. Lucas Santos is here for the first time this week, and he starts alongside two drivers who failed to set a lap time in qualifying, Christian McCrelly and Stamford, Connecticut's own Jake Maki. A 25-car grid here at Kansas Ewan, pretty much a real-life IndyCar-sized grid for that matter, but it's very gray, it's very dark. How's that going to impact the first couple laps here?
Well, let's see. I mean, it's not going to rain, which is quite pleasing. But yeah, it is going to be difficult conditions early on here. Especially interested to see whether we get some really long green flag runs here, and whether we are going to see some pit stops or anything like that, because that's when the colder temperatures are going to really make a difference. Getting out on cold tyres, etc., is going to be very interesting indeed if we get to that point. But it's pretty difficult to see that actually happening, to be honest. I can't imagine a green flag run quite long enough for us to do that, so we'll see. But yeah, these conditions are just what these drivers are going to have to deal with, and I'd imagine it's not too big of a surprise to anybody either.
And those dark clouds, it looks like it's going to rain, and we are in a little bit of a rain delay right now. There were some slight technical issues with the session, so they're resolving everything, getting all the drivers moved over to the new session, so we will have PRL racing for you in the very, very near future. But while we are in a bit of a rain delay, we've got Mark Kalin on the line here, one of our drivers tonight, basically starting dead in the middle of the field. Mark, this is something we've never done in the PRL before. It's an IndyCar oval race, or at least it's not something we've done for about 7 years. How's lap 1 going to go? We've never done it in a while.
I'm expecting yellows, but hopefully not. Yeah, just a little technical glitch with setting up the session. The wrong setup got added. So I'm having to run through and fix it real quick. So hopefully in a few minutes here, we'll get back to the racing. We'll have to redo qualifying, unfortunately. Might have a different starting order, but we'll.
Are you going to start higher up in the order?
I hope.
You going to qualify better?
I sure hope so.
Where did I already forget where you started in the last one? Was it 13th? 14th, 15th, somewhere around there?
I honestly didn't even have time to look. As soon as the qualifying ended, people were screaming at me about the setup. So. Yeah,
that's typical. People screaming at you. You're used to that by now.
It's the life of a manager. It happened.
It is. Wrangling IndyCar drivers.
That's right. But no, I appreciate you all taking the time to talk to me for a minute here. But I'm gonna get back to making this session, and hopefully we'll get on the action here soon.
Yeah, we got nothing else to talk about. So if there's any other drivers around, hop in the booth. We got a couple minutes to fill.
All right, see you all later.
See you on the grid. Well, all right, Ewan. It's rare to have to do a rain delay on iRacing. We do have rain now, but not on the ovals yet.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? You ever been to? Obviously, you've never been to Kansas, but we can pretend.
Do you recommend it? I've
not been to Kansas. I've been to a bunch of other states like around it, but I've never been to Kansas.
Okay. You said earlier, or I think you said earlier that there's sort of nothing there.
No, it's the plains. It's flat.
So, well, I mean, it's like England. You
got some hills.
Yeah,
you got a whole hill district. That's like the whole name of the thing.
Yes, this is true.
There's no hill district in Kansas.
Yeah, this is true. No, yeah, I have not been to Kansas, or indeed North
America.
No,
yeah.
And
we'll get you over here one of these days.
I don't fancy it particularly.
Let's see if the RaceSpotTV YouTube chat is getting up to any shenanigans. If anybody's got any exciting questions in the meantime, we've got our old buddy Augustine's there. Ramiro Cisneros is hanging around. Jordan Groves is cheering on Nathan Ray. James O'Brien is just saying psych as we pulled the rug out from under him. The old racing gearhead is hanging around, but we do have a driver who we can talk to. We don't have to talk about the Hill District anymore. We can talk to a guy who has a very beautiful background. Mr. Brett Punkari is here with a cat, with the basement. He's got all the old classics. Look at that. What's his name or her name?
Her name is Eve. She's actually sleeping over on the couch, but since we have a previous interview, I woke her up for a second.
There you go. At least it's not like hibernation. It's just a nap.
Yeah, it was.
Look at that beautiful zoom from Hugo in the director's chair. This is good stuff.
I'll sit on my leg again now, so.
We're seeing a nice close-up of her right now. I guess I should ask you about racing, Brett. You know, you had a pretty good qualifying run in the top 10. You've got a ton of oval experience in those closed-wheeled cars and lots of stock cars. How much IndyCar oval experience did you have before tonight?
Not a lot. I did a couple Indy Open ones, one in Iowa, one in Motegi. I got thoroughly curb stomped. Mostly because I started by IndyCar just because of the Team i5G guys, Brendan Lichtenberg, obviously. I have an idea what I want to do with the setup though for this race, because the car is pure evil. On the bottom when I started, I had to crank a bunch of weight checker in to get it to tighten up, but I don't know what it's going to do in the dirty air, but I'll have to see how it goes. And I tried qualifying for the Open Wheels 500, but I was not even close on that either.
You got any questions for Brett?
How many decades is it going to be for the Dolphins to make the playoffs again?
I don't know. I got 4 NFL teams. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers are not one of them. all four of them are not very good. The Dolphins, Jaguars, Panthers, and Falcons.
Oh, crikey.
What's wrong with the Steelers?
Well, the only reason that terrible talent's them because I watch. I didn't even know, the channel Urinating Trees, a Steelers fan, goes full Yinzer mode. That was given to me for Christmas as kind of a joke last year. So that's the reason why I had the terrible towel.
I like it. 4 years in Pittsburgh. I don't even like football that much, but you gotta root for the Pittsburgh team.
Well,
do it.
I've never been like a hometown team, even in hockey. Like I'm in the Sioux, and the old Chelsea's the Sioux Greyhounds. I'm a Kitchener Rangers fan. We've probably seen that shirt I have on there in my NHL teams, New York. Or Matt Rempe's shirt. You know, New York's terrible this year, so we'll go with that. But Matt Rempe is where it's at.
There's a good idea. The PRL Hockey Championship. We haven't crossed that one off the list yet.
I don't know how that will go, but we'll see.
I think you, Nick McLaughlin. I think there would be a distinct Canadian advantage there.
Well, maybe, but then again, even like in World Juniors and stuff like that, like I don't even go for Team Canada. I go for the rest of the field, all the other countries. It's great.
Got to root for the underdog.
Exactly.
All right, Brett. We'll let you get back to staring at your screen, hoping for them to set up the qualifying session, and we'll see if you can put it in the top 10 again.
Yeah, thanks, and quickly thank the Project 91 racing team. I'm on this team now. Been trying to get into one of the endurance races, but it hasn't worked out at all. My schedule and whatnot. Do have sponsors like Track Titan and a few others, but if I get the names right now, and of course Peugeot engines, because why not?
Why not? Might as well. I hope they send you an email and legitimately sponsor you one day. That would be beautiful.
I bought a Peugeot hat, so that works.
Ooh, that's more than most of us.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Brett Punkari, driver of the number 35 with maybe not entirely canon manufacturer. We've got one other driver who we can take a little chat to. Looks like qualifying has not actually begun yet. So we've got a new name. Mr. Lucas Santos is here with us. Hello, Lucas.
Hello. How we doing?
Good. It's good to talk to a driver I don't believe I've ever talked to in the PRL before. So I guess the first question is, what drew you to the series? Why'd you sign up?
The driver, Eric Haig, he showed me the PRL, and I was kind of eyeing expanding my own IndyCar program, see what it would be like. In my team, Scoochie Moose Motorsports, I'm practically the only IndyCar driver there, so being able to just have fun in the IndyCars, watch the series that was the first thing I've seen with my dad in Long Beach, it's almost like a dream come true, but more in a virtual way. So I was like, you know what? Let's show our skills here.
Yeah, you might as well. You had a pretty good qualifying run there the first time around. We will have to rerun qualifying, but are you looking forward to that? Anything you think you could have improved? Do you think you might go faster or anything like that?
First is to actually use the correct setup. For some reason, it used the race setup. I don't know why. I even checked, and it put it on the race setup. So let's see if we can put on the qualifying setup this time. And then just, seeing how the tools feel. It felt comfortable during my practice runs. So we'll see how we go, and then just make moves during the race if we need to.
And where is Mr. Eric Terry Haig? I don't see him on the grid tonight.
He's resting. We just came off of a Daytona 24-hour race, and we won it in our class. So that was pretty good. And so everybody's taking a break, and I was like, you know what? Let's have some fun in some IndyCar.
There you go. That's why you're my favorite now, Lucas. No breaks. Gotta keep racing. Who needs a break?
Absolutely. Who needs a break? Just keep going with it, and then you'll get better.
Exactly. Well, looks like the new session is up. Qualifying should be going in a couple of moments, so we'll let you get back to your virtual race car, and we'll see you back on the grid in a couple minutes.
See you guys. Enjoy the show.
Mr. Lucas Santos. How nice is that, Ewan? That's the good thing about the PRL. We've been doing this for, 3 years now, and there's still new names that show up.
Yeah, lots of new names, and we try and keep up and learn who they are, but it's quite difficult, to be honest. Sometimes I don't know how many individual drivers take part in across all of the series over one season, but it's got to be a couple of hundred at least.
Yeah. And there's names that were once new, and we're like, who's this guy? We're never gonna know who this guy is, and then suddenly they start winning, and they become the big names. You've got on this grid, I remember Joshua Chinsky was once a new name to the PRL a couple of years ago. Jake Maki was once a new name. Jake Vasconcelos was once a new name. It's never too late. And there are always signups open, especially in this series. As grids tend to dwindle over the course of a season, signups tend to open. So if you want to race in the PRL IndyCar Fix Series, there are spots open. You can still sign up and have some fun. And every other series for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more recent example, by the way, you won't know this because you didn't do Sunday nights last season, but Gabriel Perry did his first PRL races in the Cup Series last season and nearly won the championship. So it is possible to, not that the existing drivers are not very good, that's certainly not the case, but you can come in and challenge right from the very beginning. So yeah, if you do want to have a go, IndyCars.
Yeah. Remember when you signed up for GT3 racing, Ewan? Remember when you made your debut? Set the world on fire?
I can't remember where I made my debut, but I did do it once in front of you.
I think it was Le Mans. I think you picked the worst possible track to debut on. Was it? I think so.
Okay, I can't remember. I can remember a personal career highlight was getting in the top 10 at Phillip Island. That was a great moment until I went off.
Yeah, I wish I could remember, like, you know, important trivia or, like, remember my password, but instead my brain is filled with Ewan O'Leary virtual GT3 Le Mans starts.
It's far more important, I think.
Exactly.
And me crashing twice at VAR, nearly taking someone out with me.
That too. I'm liking these pictures, though. This is a little bit of extra practice as we wait for the session to tick over into qualifying. You've been given an extra couple of minutes of practice. You also have a new setup that you need to adapt to. Of course, you're going to want to be out on track and rip as many laps as you possibly can.
Yeah, different conditions as well out there. So yeah, it's quite ironic how I was saying there's not going to be any rain because it doesn't happen ovals. But then we had a long delay. There's the difference in conditions. 107 down on the track
40
now.
degrees hotter.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it 80? I thought it was 88 on the track.
You might be right.
Or was it 68?
But even then, 20 degrees hotter?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
I don't know how many degrees Celsius that is, but it's a lot.
About 7, probably, something like that. So yeah, it's I can't work it out, but anyway, it's quite a lot hotter, and that it may provide some problems. It's going to be more of a problem at the end of the stint now rather than the start. In the real cool conditions, you obviously struggle to get the tyres up to temperature if it's too cold. If it's too warm like this, not saying it's too warm, but it is quite warm, that might prove to be a bit more of a problem towards the end of the stint. And some of the drivers were saying, we were just chatting to them, we don't know how the cars are going to react in dirty air. That's not going to help either. Your tyres can overheat very quickly in dirty air.
And we did just see through 3 and 4 there. Oh, and there's one issue you're going to have to pay attention to more pressingly. The apron here at Kansas. You can run down there. It is legal, but this is not a stock car. This is a much lighter vehicle. So when you straddle that line between the racing surface and the apron, it can very, very easily unsettle the car, and Greg Seitz just realized that firsthand.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother going down on the apron personally. It's far too risky in my opinion. There's plenty of space on the actual track, on the actual banking itself. Just stay up there. It's a lot safer. I'd only be diving down there to avoid a crash, to be honest with you. These cars are just so low to the ground. It's not like a NASCAR or a stock car. You can't be going down there with quite such ease. You've got to have a lot of trust in your car if you're going to be doing that. So I'd be surprised if we see too much of it, but you know, people do feel the need to do it generally, especially when we're side by side in the race. We will see people diving down there.
And this is just a great racetrack for any type of oval racing, whether it's any of the stock car series, whether it's the IndyCar series. Every series races well at Kansas. I think it's one of the most underrated ovals in the world. So I'm very excited to see how these guys take it on. The top works if you can find clean air. The bottom works if you're fast enough. This is the multi-grooviest of multi-groove racetracks.
It is a very fast mile and a half, yeah. And that is especially the case in these Indy cars. Didn't race for very long here, unfortunately. These cars, well, not these cars, but the IndyCar series didn't race for very long here, unfortunately, in the 2000s. But it is a very, very fast racetrack. It's the kind of track I'd actually like to see IndyCar in real life go to a little bit more often these days. Ovals are being gently wiped away from the schedule, really. But this is exactly the kind of track I think provides really good racing.
Saw Patrick Cowgill there just a moment ago. Had a somewhat tough day at Spa, but kind of by design. Didn't qualify, so he started about 40th. Drove his way up the order and got a 23rd place for his efforts. So a couple of extra points on the board that he might have not gotten otherwise. Now that he's in a little more familiar territory, I have to imagine he's not going to be going for the last to first strategy this week. That's not it's not the ideal way to go when you might actually be strong enough to start in the top 10.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in qualifying here. It's about 6 minutes away as far as practice goes, but I'm not sure whether they're going to advance the session or not, or what. But I'll let everybody get used to the conditions all over again here. But yeah, it's going to be everybody trying as best they can to get this pole position for the second time round. I think the driver who's going to be most disappointed probably that there was a restarted session. Josh Conker, didn't see him do very well in practice, but he got that time together in qualifying, and that's just oh dear, been wiped away now as we see a spin on the back straight.
Bonk. Oh, actually, no bonk.
No.
There's the bonk. There was no bonk on the front end, and there was a bonk on the rear end for good old Matthew Long. Riding on board with Josh Conker here. He just took a little bit of a bite out of the wall in turn 4. He'll bring it down pit lane. But Conker, maybe one of the more underrated drivers in the field. We looked down the order before this season started. We saw a lot of very strong prototype drivers, a lot of very strong oval drivers, but Josh Conker is just as strong as any of those guys in his own right. We just don't maybe rate him as high because he's been away for a couple of seasons, hasn't run a full season in a little while, but when he's been on an oval in any of the NASCAR series, he's been very fast. He put it on pole at Spa by half a second last week. He was very fast, but luckily, thanks to Ewan's wishes, the session has indeed advanced, and we will go qualifying here in a matter of seconds. This is closed qualifying, 5 minutes on the clock. You get 2 fast laps on your lonesome, and there's actually 2 new drivers in the field. With this little delay, the iRacing Roar has actually finished, and William Brennan and Nicholas Collender are here. So we've got a 26-car grid ready to go qualifying.
It's all worth it in the end.
Exactly.
The whole palaver. It certainly was for those two. I didn't realise those races were still going on, to be honest with you, but there you go. We are going to have a 26 car field. It does feel about right for an IndyCar field, doesn't it? 26 or so, maybe slightly on the light side, but not. That's plenty to be getting on with. 26. So we're looking forward to seeing how they get on. Here's Josh Conker over the line, starting his qualifying, and the advantage as well is that we can actually watch it now, and we can try and see who's going quickly and how in this qualifying session. Conker staying up high here through turn 1 and 2.
On his warm-up lap, ran high, still running high up here, building up as much momentum as humanly possible. I think it's going to be lap 2 that's really going to matter here. Brings it across the line, down on the apron. He does elect to go for the unsettling of the bottom of the car in qualifying, but it is only 1 lap that you have to do that. Now through turn 1, clips the apron a little bit in turn 1. Not sure if that's what Conker wanted to do.
Yeah, I think this is going to be away from pole position. If he gets it, he will get it with some time still on the table, because you're right, there was a bit of a correction there. He clipped the apron as well. Here goes Conker then, to the left-hand side, to the white line, to the grass. He's going to get the fastest time for now, but will it stand up to the test of time?
It is pole, but you can see some of those drivers around him were not around him in the previous session. Kranifus started down the order. Pancari started deeper in the top 10. None of those pole contenders from the previous session have set their fastest laps yet. Matthew Long on track right now. Cup champion in the PRL, taking on an open wheel car for the first time. He's definitely going to have some qualifying pace. Will it be pole qualifying pace? Yes, it indeed will. No, it won't. What? The clock ticks over. In the dying milliseconds of it, it looked like it was going to be pole speed, but no, just shy by 24 thousandths.
Well, I don't know what that was all about, but the time just changed to the very end there, and he's not got the pole time. And it's amazing that Conker is still at the top of the session, because we saw him clip the apron there. I thought that would have been enough for him to lose pole pretty comfortably. I thought it'd be off the front row, to be honest. But anyway, he's staying up there quite nicely for the moment. Vasconcelos hasn't done his 2 lap times just yet. Looks like Steve Baker just beginning here as well. This is still got a couple of minutes to go, and so still plenty of time for those who haven't set times, and there are about 7 of them to do so.
Yeah, heavy hitters are coming. Vasconcelos should be finishing his 2nd lap in a couple of seconds. Steve Baker about to finish his 2nd lap right now. Baker to the line, only a 25.5. Vasconcelos only a 25.4. So both of them lower in the order than they were in the previous session. 2 big names left, though. Jordan Kernow, who started 3rd in the previous session. Look for him to potentially challenge for pole. Indycar Scarlett on track right now as well. Mark Kalin coming through turns 3 and 4 this time. Maybe an outside shot at it as he brings it across the line. Not quite there. Very, very close. An excellent lap time from Mark, but only P7 for him for now. Indycar Scarlett, I'd say, is the last one with a real chance at pole here, and she's saving this for the dying moments of the session.
Well, I would say so as well, but this must be lap 1 then, I suppose. Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was such a slow start to this lap. I thought, has there been an error on lap 1 that spilled over to lap 2? And that would be a disaster as far as qualifying is concerned. But no, we're just winding up here through lap 1. Down off the banking now off of 4. Here's the real attempt. This is going to be nowhere near. This 2nd lap is what it's all about.
She was scheduled to start P4, but a change in the schedule, a slight technical glitch has given every driver a second chance at qualifying, and now your previous pole sitter Josh Conker made a slight mistake on his lap. That's opened the door for the rest of the field to potentially overhaul him. Indica Scarlet out of the final corner with a full head of steam. Can she knock Conker off pole? Not quite. With an imperfect lap, Josh Conker will still start from pole. Indica Scarlet will go from 4th to starting 4th yet again.
The entire last half an hour completely pointless for Indica Scarlet, who is completely in the same position as before, but that's fine. I think she'll take that, really. And starting on the outside of row 2, everybody is going to be looking as to where they were before and thinking, am I better off or not? And that's exactly how you're going to be feeling about this. But thankfully for Josh Conker, he was able to deliver for the second session in a row.
Maybe his third pole of the season, technically, instead of his second pole of the season. Either way, it's a 100% pole rate. This time, he has Matthew Long instead of James O'Brien to his outside. Daniel Cranifus starts 3rd. Indica Scarlet returns to 4th. James O'Brien 3 spots lower than he would have liked to be. Brett Punkari improves. He'll start in the top 6. P7, Jordan Kurnow, he starts alongside Mark Kalin. Ken Miller down to P9, and Patrick Cowgill will start in the top 10 in his first PRL oval race officially. Championship leader Dave Menino is 11th alongside Greg Seitz. Rounds out the top half of the field. Jake Vasconcelos in 13th as well. 3 of the fastest drivers from last week. 4 of the fastest drivers from last week with Nathan Ray condensed in the middle of the field. Nicholas Collanders here. He starts alongside Lucas Santos. Brandon Walter is 17th. Steve Baker, very, very fast in the race last week. He starts P18. Mark McDonald gets Brett Thurman for company on the 10th row. Guillaume Potvin and Richard Swindells. It's all Canadian on row 11. Joshua Chinsky, much, much lower than he would have liked. P23, Jean-Marc Cormier with his fellow Canadians down there in 24th. Christian McCrelly and William Brennan, both of them did not set qualifying lap times. I do see both of them in their cars on the grid though, so it is a full 26 car grid here, and we are officially ready to go racing at long last.
Now it's 96 degrees Fahrenheit on the circuit, so I don't know what the temperature's doing.
Clouds are rolling in.
It's going all over the place. Is that Kansas thing? Anyway,
I don't know. It's flat.
It's going all over the place. Anyway, it's a little bit less overcast than what we had last time. Conditions actually pretty ideal, I think. Not too cold or warm. I think they're in a decent place in the middle compared to what we've had previously. My favourite stat about this race, by the way, just before we get underway for this pace lap. If we do 97 laps, which I'd imagine we will, we'll be crossing the 34,000 mile mark in open wheel PRL competition.
34,000 miles. I don't know how far that gets you.
Isn't it?
Does that get you to the moon?
Well, don't ask me that.
I don't know how far away the moon is. But yeah, you're right. That's what, 68 Proclaimers songs?
Good maths, well done. That feels like that's not far enough, 34,000 miles to the moon. I'd be a bit more concerned about the moon's existence than I normally am, actually, if that's true.
You should be concerned about the moon's existence. The moon is about 250,000 miles away, so we're not quite moon distance, but we will get there. Give the PRL about 10 more years and it'll happen. But we are ready for the first time in a very, very long while to go PRL IndyCar racing on an oval. There was an exhibition a couple of years ago, or a couple of months ago, where we raced these cars in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but the last PRL race on an oval in an IndyCar in competition was at Las Vegas Motor Speedway on May 3rd, 2018. Ray Kingsbury started on pole. Matthew Gunderson came home with the win. We're about to add some new names to the history book. Josh Conker will lead the field to green. For the 100% pole rate this season, Conker does it. Matthew Long to his outside. Indica Scarlet from 4th with a phenomenal start, sending it 3 wide to the outside into turn 1. Brett Punkari in the orange and white Peugeot IndyCar is trying to rip the top as well. Conker holds on for the moment. Long slotting in line, but look at that purple and black car of Indica Scarlet again, dipping to the inside and stealing second away from Long.
An immediate taste of what we're going to get here tonight in the racing at Kansas. 3 wide across the start-finish line first time round, and 3 wide into turns 3 and 4 as well. We'll get single file into 1 and 2 briefly here as Conker leads from Scarlett Long, then Punkari, but here comes Brett Punkari on the outside up to 3rd.
And there's a crash, huge crash in the middle of the backstretch. Everybody's still pointed straight, so no caution's gonna fly. I think that's Nathan Ray in the number 22 falling down the order. Got about 20 feet in the air. Greg Seitz may have been involved as well as he falls down the order. Remarkably, no caution for that. It's another car spearing into the grass on the front stretch. That was Brett Thurman. Trouble's fallen early, and there might be trouble for the pole sitter, Josh Conger. Indica Scarlet is on the attack and has already caught the race leader.
Brett Pancari set the fastest lap first time round there in the background, or second time round I should say, and is just waiting to see who prevails from these two. Conker on the inside, looks like he's going to. Indica Scarlet very much up a high on her own at the moment, but making decent pace around the outside, getting back to second place again ahead of Brett Pancari. Then Matthew Long, who's in fourth place. These four very much breaking away actually at the front.
That's what happened on the backstretch. Greg Seitz in the dirty air. Did not expect to get as tight as he did. Slammed the outside wall. Poor old Nathan Ray in that highlighter yellow Solpec Precision Racing machine just had nowhere to go.
Yeah, that was pretty awkward for everybody down there. It's always difficult on the start, but a minor miracle that everyone's still pointing in the right direction. Only two drivers having to come down pit lane in the first 3 minutes of the race, but there's not much they could have done about this. Nathan Ray was just rather running his race and couldn't avoid from running into the back of that driver in front there. And his front right tyre is just being dragged along now rather than being functional. He's down in pit lane.
But now the trouble with running up front. Josh Conker is ripping the bottom. He is painting the white line. Indica Scarlet can't seem to get to the inside until she finally does. Gets a run through turns 1 and 2, finally gets to the inside, and now she's going to try and do exactly what Conker did, try and hold the bottom and make sure Conker can't steal this thing back.
I think that's going to be pretty difficult to do. There's going to be a lot of lead changes here tonight. Scarlett has taken the lead for the first time round. I think Brett Pancari is going to be the next leader. That's a good run out of turn 2 to the inside line. It looks like we're going to get another lead change.
Did not expect this to be as much of a pack race as it's been so far, but Pancari, Scarlett, Conker, and Long just trading the lead with every lap now. And now here, Pancari leaves the bottom open for Scarlett to come through. It's still early days in the race, so I'm wondering if that was a strategic decision there from Conker when he saw he was getting past. Is he just backing out of this, letting these guys battle it out and hoping to save a little bit of fuel?
Now, there's Dave Menino losing 11th place to Steve Baker. Menino, last week's winner, in case you weren't with us. He got clear on lap 7 and some battles for second place. I think an incident between Josh Conker, who got spun at the start of lap 8, allowed him to get clear, and he was able to win last week, but he's outside the top 10. And once again, it's noticeable how those who did well last week are not doing quite so well so far today, other than Conker himself, who finished 5th 1 week ago, still running 3rd at the moment.
And with the trouble we had on lap 1 in the middle of the field, the pack is kind of separated. The top 4 are all together in one pack. Mark Kalin in 5th kind of leads the entire rest of the field in a second pack, in a second train. So for basically anybody outside of the top 4, they're already hoping for a yellow if they want to catch up to the front 4, and they might get it as Jordan Kernow has spun on the backstretch. No caution's going to fly as he's well off the racing surface. He's still pointed in a straight line, but the rest of the field really wants that to be a caution next time.
I think it's been pretty lucky that we've stayed green actually so far, considering there have been incidents, and that not being the only one of them. We've seen plenty, and so we're pretty lucky to still be green flag racing nearly 5 minutes in to the first oval racing here this season. There we go, there's the yellow flag. I would say about 4 minutes behind schedule, to be honest, but finally the first yellow has come.
Not a commentator's curse, just a commentator's reality, I'd say, as we were running dangerously close to caution territory with many of those incidents. Looks like it was one of the Rust Racing cars and William Brennan coming together. Can't identify which Rust Racing car that is. I think that's Greg Seitz. They're all painted the same. Yes, that is Greg Seitz. And a little bit of an argument with... No, that's Nicholas Collender. False alarm. They're all painted the same. But yeah.
Yes, Seitz has already had this crash, and he was out of the race by that point, actually. Greg Seitz seems to have given up already. So that's unfortunate for him, but that was Nicholas Collender. Can't quite work out what was going on there. Collender was squeezing to the right-hand side quite aggressively, but then the driver on the outside of him just seemed to sort of turn into him. So don't really know what was going on there, but those two were not giving each other anywhere near enough room at the kind of speeds they're going on the back straight there. And in the end, that brings out the first caution.
It is very early days, so you're not seeing any pit stops from the front runners, but there are a few who have elected to take this opportunity, put some fresh tires on there, put some new fuel in there. Guillaume Potvin is down pit lane. Jordan Kurnow, of course, after his spin. Christian McCrelly and Mark McDonald all coming down for reasonably scheduled service.
Yeah, reasonably. The general consensus, though, seems to be to stay out is the best thing to do as of right now. In fact, the top 19 have all stayed out. The rest of them have come in for various reasons. The bottom 7 have all come in for various reasons so far this race. 3 of them for long damage repairs, which Nathan Ray is still taking on, by the way. But Nicholas Collender and Greg Seitz have already retired from the race.
So in just a couple of laps, we're going to do something that we have not done in the PRL for many, many years. A single file IndyCar restart. Even in the highest levels of IndyCar racing, these still catch people out. There's still checkups in the middle of the field. There's still unhappy drivers. There's still front wings taken off. These guys have never done one of these in competition. None of the drivers in this field have ever done this in competition in the PRL. You're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, they are. And it does feel weird, I've got to say, to do single file restarts on an oval. It does feel a little bit strange, so don't be surprised if there is something that flares up here as we restart, because I just think there could be some people surprised, especially in the back of the pack. After all, we've still got 23 of them out in the race, by the way, all on the lead lap and all looking to make up positions early on here.
Because I think even in races like the US 500 in the VCO IndyCar series, there were still checkups in the middle of the field on these single file restarts. So we'll see if everybody's on their P's and Q's. Will everybody be paying attention to the cars in front or just jumping it when the green flag flies? We'll find out in just a couple of moments. Lights are out on the iRacing sedan pace car, and Indica Scarlet will lead the field to a restart for the first time in her short PRL career. Brett Pancari immediately behind, ready to take the lead as soon as humanly possible. Pole sitter Josh Conker is third, and the whole rest of the field is behind. The green flag is in the hands of Barney the Flagman, and we're racing yet again at Kansas. It's clean in the top 10, but you can't see the back of the field where everybody else has gotten to get on the throttle at exactly the same time. Long jumps Conker. He gets to the outside of him. And I think we've done this entirely cleanly.
Looks like through turn 1 and 2 we have Menino lost a place down towards turn 1, by the way. He's down to 14th at the hands of Ken Miller, who's now 13th for the backpack Gonzalez and Santos going side by side. This is the group. Menino now going side by side with Brandon Walter out of turn 4, and this doesn't really know where to go now. Walter, he's a bit boxed in there on the low side. He's going to have to just lift off on the way towards turn 1. As Indica Scarlett and Brett Pancari were going side by side again. Scarlett's taking the lead for now, but Pancari's going back again towards 3 and 4.
Conker's liking this, Long is liking this, Mark Kalin is liking this as these guys continue to fight as they switch off back and forth. Top 5, top 6, top 7 all stay reasonably together in draft range. But as I was saying a little bit earlier, it's tough when you're up front. You can slingshot, you can make passes. Pancari and Scarlett have done that so many times, but if the driver in front of you elects not to switch around with you, if they do just elect to rip the white line like Josh Conker was doing for a while, it's very difficult to make that move on the outside on your own.
Looks like it for the moment, although Conker has given that position away to Matthew Long. And this top 4 again are putting a bit of an advantage into the rest of the field. So I just get the feeling here that the front 4 have got this car absolutely pinned down, and they know what they're doing a little bit better than the rest of the field. They've created a very similar gap to what they had in the first run.
And bad news for fans of Ken Miller and Guillaume Potvin. Both of them are down pit lane already, accumulating some damage in the opening laps of this stint. Didn't see what happened to either of them, but Potvin's out. He's gotten out of the car. Ken Miller is now back on the racing surface, and a little bit of chopping in the middle of the field here It's James O'Brien, Mark Kalin, and Patrick Cowgill, the first couple of cars outside that top 4 group. They're playing with inches here.
Miller only did a drive-through, by the way. I wonder whether he got a penalty for passing before the line, because he passed Menino very quickly, and I just wonder whether he passed him too quickly for 13th on the restart. So we'll watch for that. But Miller definitely didn't stop in his box from what I saw.
It's right on board with Ken here. As I mentioned, none of these guys have ever done this in the PRL before, and there it is. That's a rule you're not allowed to break, and I don't think Ken Miller knew he wasn't allowed to break it.
Exactly, that's exactly the point. I think he didn't even know what he was doing wrong there. It's just a classic case of not really knowing the rules, and it sounds silly, but if you haven't done this racing before, why would you? Because it's single file restarts on an oval. It's very weird. That would be permitted in NASCAR racing. When it's double file restart like that, you are allowed to pass cars before the line, provided it's not in your own line. You can pass cars technically before you get to the start finish line. So it's a difference in the ruling. And if you've not done this kind of racing before, you just won't know about it. And you could see how he was trying to predict the green flag as well. He was just hanging off the back of Menino, trying to get the run, which is not really allowed either.
Guillaume Pauvin just taps the wall in turn 4, a little bit tight. Oh, and it gets worse. Gets the wheel on the apron, gets even more loose, and I think he realized that car wasn't treating him too well. Didn't really want to risk crashing again. He brought it down pit lane, and he is done for the day. But that was a big slide for Patrick Cowgill out of turn 2.
Oh.
And
Conker.
Josh Conker is in trouble on the front stretch.
Oh no, he's up in the wall. How has that happened? It's a caution that flies. He was battling away with Matthew Long, I think. And, what's...
Looks like I assume he got into trouble on the backstretch there, as the front right wheel was entirely disconnected. Here it is, side by side with Indycar Scarlet. Oh, that's how it happened.
How has that really happened? Well, how have they just met in the middle there and hit each other? That's very strange. Scott does move around quite a lot there, and Josh Conker there with no front right tyre is just going to turn away. Let's see how much he moves his wheel. I think he was the one going directly forwards. I think Indycar Scarlet was the one moving around a bit too much.
And just another situation with drivers who don't have a ton of experience in this car. It's very easy to get a little bit wiggly with the wheel on a backstretch like this, especially a bumpy one, especially when the walls are so close. But the majority of the field does now elect to come down pit lane. Matthew Long stays out for another lap. Jake Vasconcelos is going to stay out as well. But Pancari's in, Scarlett's in, Chinsky's in. Basically everybody who hasn't pitted already, or even the people who have pitted already, are in. It's just those top 4 who are staying out.
It's the worst sight in the world when you're the leader and you see everybody coming in behind you, isn't it? It's the worst thing in the world. And I'm afraid Matthew Long is going to be hung out to dry here on this restart as everybody comes into pit. There goes Brett Pancari. He's going to win the race off pit road, followed by Indycar Scarlet, who's going to be second off. Then Joshua Chinsky, Mark Kalin, James O'Brien, Steve Baker, then Patrick Cowgill, then a bit of a gap back to Cranefuss, Walter, Menino, and then Swindles. Richard Swindles, the top 15, but it's going to be a very interesting restart for that top 4.
Much faster pit stops than you're used to seeing in the PRL. Fuel and tires in 8 seconds. Not used to seeing that in the stock cars or in the sports cars. But one interesting driver in this top 4 who stayed out is Jordan Kernow. He did pit under the last caution, so he's kind of in the center of the strategy. Long, Vasconcelos, and Santos, they're still on the same tires they started this race on. They've been on this stint for 25 laps. Kernow is on lap 12 of his stint, and the rest of the field now is on lap 0 of their stint. So there's 3 strategies at play now.
Yeah, I still think that Pancari and Scarlett are going to be able to come through the field and get to the front here pretty quickly, because I think fundamentally the cars that they've got underneath them are just a bit better at the moment, and they've got a better feel for it right now compared to a lot of the others. You notice the way the top 4 got away in both of those runs. I think they should be able to do the same. Although, is that just a factor that they've been in clean air and they've been enjoying that, and now they're in dirty air, they'll struggle a bit more. We'll see on this restart.
We need to give a shout out to the driver who's going to restart 7th. Joshua Chinsky started 23rd on the grid, and he's going to restart in 7th. Those are all legitimate spots. He is on the same strategy as those who pitted. He was running as high as 5th from 23rd, And as of right now, he's up 16 spots from where he started. That is the drive of a driver who wants to win this championship, even when he had a bad qualifying, started deeper in the order than he would have liked. He's recovering a 7th place out of that right now, and who knows how much better it'll go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's still a very long way to go in this race, and so we'll see how the rest of the race develops. But it's been a good start for him as Matthew Long comes in control of the field. The pace car pulls in, and we're ready to go again.
How long can Long go? Him, Vasconcelos, and Lucas Santos all on the same strategy.
Oh,
There's
no!
already a crash in the back of the field, and it's Joshua Chinsky, the driver who had made his way up from the back of the field totally legitimately. It all comes undone, smacking the wall on the front stretch on the restart.
Yeah, I think he was hit. I think he was hit on the front stretch there. And I'm afraid that's exactly what you were talking about ahead of the first restart. And it's happened here in the second. People trying to anticipate the jump. People hitting the back of one another. I think we're going to get royally rammed up the rear end here, I'm afraid, for Joshua Chinsky. Here we go. As we try and go green. Everybody trying to anticipate it, and bang, straight into the wall. Front right tyre off, and he just stays up high, staying out of everybody's way. A real shame to end his top 10 run in that way.
From above here, that's Mark Kalin behind Chinsky.
Oh, no!
Didn't get hit at all. That was on the throttle.
Oh, I apologise. I apologise to all those behind him. It was such a violent snap. I thought he was hit, but no. Chinsky did that completely by himself.
Yeah, again, we're seeing, as this is a very new series with very new drivers taking on this challenge, discovering the mysteries of an IndyCar, restarting with slightly newer tires and maybe weight jacker settings that you weren't used to, restarting single file, not clipping the apron. Everybody's learning in this series for the first time. Some are learning faster than others in very difficult ways.
Yeah, some are learning the hard way, that's for sure.
Exactly.
In this race, Brett Konkari has got up to 3rd place. Meanwhile, he's showing that in clean air and dirty air, he can do it, and he's got the moves so far to get him up to 3rd position. He's getting away from some of the others who he was racing with earlier, like Indycar Scarlett, who has not quite been able to come through the field with quite the same speed. This is back in the mid-pack, if you like. Menino being hounded by Daniel Kramfus here in 12th place, and behind, up in front, Brett Konkari's off.
One of the front runners spins on the backstretch. He's so far off your screen. No caution's going to fly, as he was down in the apron, but I can't quite see. Is there damage on the... Oh, there's definitely damage. You can see he's crabbing on the apron here. But wow, another front runner gets into trouble and eliminates himself from contention.
Yeah. It's certainly emotional damage, if nothing else, for Brett Konkari after that. He was in a... I think he was the quickest driver, actually. Not just over one lap, that's obvious, because he had the fastest lap, but actually over a run as well. He was looking very good. He's just grazed the wall himself off of turn 2. It's a really small tap on the wall, but that's all it's done, and he's had to go into pit lane as a result of that.
He did a great job of saving it down there, but unfortunately the damage was already done. Konkari can take this with him, though. He was running front-running pace. As Ewan said, he was potentially the favorite to win this race. That would have been his first race win in the PRL. Luckily for him, he's got 4 more ovals to take on this season, including a couple of super speedways. Maybe watch the replay, see what he could have done better, and he'll take some confidence to the next oval we go to.
Yep. Certainly a lot of confidence to take, even if it was a brief cameo in this in the grand scheme of this race. Well, it's been a very interesting one so far, and one where survival of this race, where survival is going to be so important. Menino versus Kramfus is still going on here. It's now for 10th place, but these guys, by just surviving, are steadily working their way through the field.
And survival's the name of the game for Dave Menino. Not a comfortable oval driver, even slightly. Had never driven on this track in any vehicle before this week. This is a trial by fire for a driver who is going to excel on the road courses. He won the first race of the season at Spa, and he's got to learn and survive on the ovals, which he's doing a good job of doing, and letting the more experienced oval driver Mark Kalin get by in turn 1.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit about that lack of oval exposure. Oh, wow! That was quite a skillful bit of avoiding action, though, from Menino. He has lost places, but at least he's not crashed into anybody. And Mark Kalin there had a big moment just up ahead of him. I do concern a little bit about Menino's oval racing credentials as far as winning this championship goes, because, yes, he's going to be able to drop one of them, but there's 4 oval events, and surely that's going to be really difficult to overcome in the season standings.
And so much for Mark Kalin being a more experienced oval driver. He's not necessarily a more experienced IndyCar driver, and yet again, I think he was totally on his own there. Just got loose in turn 1 and fell down the track. Probably not ready for what his weight jacker settings were about to do to him.
He saved it well, though. I find that when you do start to slide in these cars, especially at a high-speed circuit like this one, you're very likely to be gone very quickly. So he did a good job of gathering that one up. James O'Brien and Jake Vasconcelos, by the way, are going side by side. They were close to. O'Brien into the top 5, a very seasoned oval driver, as we know. Just ahead of Vasconcelos, who's looking to get another good result under his belt.
This is a very confusing top 6 right now, because Jordan Kurnow, as we mentioned, is leading this race on 12-lap older tires. Long, Santos, and Jake Vasconcelos still need to pit. Scarlett and O'Brien are the first 2 drivers who have made their first stop of the race, or made their first stop of the race 15 laps ago. Who knows how this is going to add up? We're still only about a third of the way through the race, so I hope these guys are doing their own strategy. I hope they're doing calculations, because everything's mixed up at the top of the field.
Yeah, certainly is. I think this race is going to go to the hour time limit rather than get to the end the conventional way, I think, anyway. Yeah, should do. So we are going to have to see about the time on the top of the screen rather than the laps, and that's where it gets especially complicated. Here, Indycar Scarlett versus Lucas Santos still goes on. Indycar Scarlett finding this pass quite difficult to make at the moment. Lucas Santos still in the way and still hasn't stopped, of course. This is 13 places gained if he can hang on to 3rd place for Lucas Santos. He's having a good opening half of this one.
But again, off at turn 4, Indycar getting so close to the rear end of that number 4. It just worries me a little bit with that contact a little bit earlier with Josh Conker. She's clearly very fast. She's got a ton of speed, but there have been some close moments that, I don't know, Lucas Santos might be worried seeing her in the rearview mirror.
I think so, especially after the incident with Brett Pancari. Excuse me, not Brett Pancari, was it? It was
Josh Conker
earlier on. That might just be a little bit of a concern, but Lucas Santos may not have seen it, to be honest. Indycar Scarlett now works her way around the outside of turn 1 and 2 and is through into 3rd place and now trying to keep it. That seems to be the difficult thing. Lucas Santos does seem to be able to come back quite quickly.
Santos on about 30-lap older tires. Will he be able to overcome that with the power of the draft? Down the front stretch, certainly looked like he was able to, but through turns 1 and 2, not quite the grip he needed to keep close company. See if Indycar can drive off into the distance and bring down what is now a 2.5-second gap to the 2nd place car, Matthew Long. Indycar's going to have a little bit of help. That's one of the lapped SRT cars, I believe, who's come out of the pits. Can give her a little bit of draft here down the back stretch, but that is a very difficult job to make up 2.5 seconds in clean air in an IndyCar. She's going to have a tough job of it.
Well, I can't imagine this is going to be the green flag run that takes us all the way to the end of the race, so I think this position is absolutely fine just for the moment, especially with the decreasing amount of cars on the lead lap. Just 16 left now, 10 of them off of the lead lap, 2 of them still in the race, the other 8 are all out, including Brett Pancari, who's decided to call it a day as of right now. So the field and the circuit will feel a lot quieter actually now out on the circuit, and maybe that will help keep us green. It certainly is at the moment.
Steve Baker and Daniel Cranifus going at it. Jake Vasconcelos and Brandon Walter going at it. There are still battles everywhere in the field. This is a 3-way fight for P6 at the moment. All 3 of these guys, or 2 out of 3 of these guys, on the same strategy. Patrick Cowgill and Brandon Walter have made their first stops of the day. Jake Vasconcelos racing with these guys, holding speed, but this is lap 47 of his stint right now. he's going to have to start thinking about pitting here very soon. Even with a couple of cautions to save a little bit of fuel, can't go that much further than this.
It's going to be pretty difficult to come back from unless everybody ends up making green flag pit stops. Those who will have to come in here pretty shortly are going to be a long way down. It's going to cost you laps rather than seconds here at this very short circuit. Just around 25-second lap times, or 26 we're just tipping into now. So it's going to be losing laps, I'm afraid, for those who have to make green flag stops. And that's why, I suppose, the majority of drivers came in under that last caution, knowing that if a semi-long green flag run like this were to happen, they would be in trouble.
Big moment for Brandon Walter there, coming out of turn 2. Very, very loose, was able to save it. And now ripping the bottom in 3 and 4 is trying to build up momentum and not do exactly the same thing again this time into 1 and 2.
He's having a decent race so far, Brandon Walter. He was caught up in that pile-up at Pouon on lap 1 last week, which rather put an early end to that race for him. So he's having a much better time of things this time round to inside the top 10. Here comes Baker trying to get himself inside the top 10 as well at the expense of the 222. Number 2 on the 222.
And another driver who has absolutely torn their way through the field. Christian McCrelly did not qualify, started 25th, nearly last, and he's legitimately up into the top 10. It's another driver who has a lot of road course experience in the IndyCar. Not a ton of oval experience, but he's a very, very quick learner, and he stayed out of trouble. He's in the top 10 in his first PRL IndyCar oval race.
Yeah, and you'd imagine as well that if you're comfortable with the IndyCar on the road, then you could get comfortable with it with the oval if you were giving yourself enough of a chance. So it seems like a perfect opportunity to go and do that. Lucas Santos has now finally been dispatched for good by Indycar Scarlett, who's now a couple of seconds up the road. But James O'Brien is next up, trying to pass Santos. This is for 4th place. James O'Brien's starting to grow into this race a little bit now.
To the outside into turn 1. Shouldn't be too difficult, even as they are both full throttle and clean air. Just a little bit more grip on those 4 tires under James O'Brien's vehicle, and he does rip around the outside to look forward at the 2-second gap up to Indycar Scarlett. This is a track that eats up the tires. It's very high speed. It is flat for the most part, but that eats tires up, and you do need to know how to save tires, which a driver like James O'Brien certainly knows how to do from long Cup Series runs.
Absolutely. Been in the Cup Series for a long time. Still needed something to do on a Sunday night, clearly, but he's back now in the IndyCar instead. I'm not sure he was delighted to see the stock cars going away, but still
Trouble
here
on the front stretch, sorry, and Matthew Long, I think, was trying to bring it down pit lane. There was a very large cloud of smoke, which I don't know if it was just a brake lockup or if it was a spin, but that was a very large cloud of smoke. I don't know if that was intentional.
Yeah, I was wondering the same, actually, whether that was a spin or a lockup. It's entirely possible that either could have happened, but if there was a spin, it wouldn't have brought out a caution because he would have been below the apron, below the white line if he was trying to make it in. He's already a little bit loose, and yes, he did go for a spin, a half spin, if you will. Slides to a stop pretty much, gets back going again, but that will have cost him some time. This will help, though, the caution coming out now.
The caution flies as Long and Santos finally make their pit stops. It's Steve Baker in the number 2, absolutely destroyed the front end of that car. Not sure if anybody else was involved with him, but
no,
he's not getting back out anytime soon, and unfortunately that's 2 weeks in a row that Steve Baker has shown speed, and it's ended in a colossal crash. There it was, very loose through 3 and 4, overcorrects it, and destroys the entire front end of that Solpec Precision Racing number 2.
That's what I was talking about earlier on with Mark Kalin saving a slide. You don't often save them, really. They're happening, and then you try and correct them, and you spin the other way back into the wall, and Baker couldn't turn anymore after that crash because his front end was so ruined. I think Long and Santos are going to be ruining the fact that the caution came out on that lap there rather than a couple of laps earlier, which would have saved them from having to make that green flag stop. Now the 2 of them are 1 lap down.
Jake Vasconcelos did a good job of saving enough fuel to be able to pit with all these guys. Vasconcelos was on the same strategy as Long and Santos, but he was able to extend his his pit lap for one more lap, and that will allow him to equalize his strategy with the rest of the field. Mark Kalin stays out, interestingly. I imagine he'll come down pit lane the next time around, but this is legitimately the race for the overall lead now. Kurnow, Scarlett, O'Brien, and the rest of the gang all on the same exact strategy. Kurnow's out, Scarlett's out. Jordan Kurnow is going to win the race off pit lane by inches. Indycar Scarlett in second, James O'Brien in third.
Well, from Kurnow's point of view, probably shouldn't have been that close, to be honest. But his pit stop was just half a second longer than Indycar Scarlett's. Just about gets out ahead. But Mark Kalin has decided to stay out. Now, that's going to prevent a few people from getting the wave around, which they're not going to be very pleased about. But it's also going to give us a very interesting proposition for this restart. As Indycar Scarlett gets past Jordan Kurnow, maybe she did win the race off pit lane.
Interesting. It certainly looked like his front wing was ahead of the cone, but timing and scoring may disagree. The transponder is in the middle of the car, so maybe iRacing disagrees with our eyes.
Difficult to... I mean, I couldn't tell.
If we get a replay, that would be awesome. But also, as Ewan mentioned, in the meantime, Mark Kalin is going to be so unpopular with those two drivers immediately behind him. Matthew Long and Lucas Santos cannot go to the lead lap now. They can't get waved around because they're behind Mark Kalin.
I think Brett Thurman can.
Brett Thurman's good. He'll get one of his laps back, but Long and Santos are probably saying some choice words to Mark Kalin right now.
And because it's IndyCar, they don't move out of the way. So, and this is the right way to do it, by the way, just saying. But yes, they are going to be restarting from the front. So Mark Kalin is actually going to use them as a bit of a buffer here to try and keep the others at bay just for the moment. And, well, it's going to work early on, I think. Mark Kalin will hold on to the lead for the first few laps. That's just how long for is an entirely different question.
Yeah, Vasconcelos, Long, and Santos were able to go about 50 laps with cautions in the last stint, so Mark can likely go 10, 12 more laps on this stint. I think he's definitely hoping for yellows, though. Hoping for some more drama with the field closed up that might equalize him into a race-winning position. This will be interesting. Kalin is your leader. Long behind him, Santos behind him, and Ken Miller behind him are all laps down. Indycar Scarlett is in second, fifth in line. Jordan Kurnow behind her, fighting her for the overall race lead most likely. But we're green again. Mark Kalin on an alternate strategy to the entire rest of the field takes us back to green, but he's got two angry lap cars coming to get their laps back behind him.
It's a very risky strategy considering the amount of laps he's already done on those tyres and on that tank of fuel as well. But he is leading the race and he's got a bit of a buffer because he's stayed out as well. Vasconcelos is trying to work his way back up through the field all over again here. He's into the top 10, just got past Dave Menino there. These two finished 4 and 2 at Spa last week. They're 8 and 9 at the moment.
In the opposite order, Vasconcelos still making up points on his championship rival. No matter where you finish, points go all the way down in the PRL, so finishing ahead, it's going to add up to good stuff in the championship. And Vasconcelos now builds up a big run on Kranifus, sends it to the inside in turn 3. Not going to be quite clear on the exit of turn 4. Kranifus fights back on the outside, side by side for 7th between two guys who were also very fast at Spa last week. Kranifus was up there too.
Yeah, side by side through 1 and 2 again. Vasconcelos can't afford to come up too high, and that was quite close, but he loses the place. Kranifus gets into 7th, but again, it costs them time. The top 6 able to get away, and that's not just the 6, of course, that's involving a few lap cars as well, which are getting away.
Matthew Long has gotten back onto the lead lap. He was able to pass Mark Kalin. Lucas Santos has not done the same yet. This is the closest battle on track as Vasconcelos grabs the car as it got very loose off of turn 2. He takes the spot from Kranifus, but Dave Menino is in trouble again on the backstretch. Didn't see him in the background, but he was immediately behind these guys, and he has fallen far down the order and out of the top 10.
And that's me. He's wanting these final 25 minutes to be over very, very quickly indeed. I get the feeling he wants this race to be over as soon as possible. This is what happened. Just grazed the wall out of 2. Now, has that done him damage, or has he been very, very lucky and got away with it?
That looked like a Punkari into the wall, so I think he's definitely got some damage. Doesn't appear to be terminal, though, so he will still be able to circulate out there. He's going to be very, very slow for the final 24 minutes of this race, though. So Dave Menino hoping not to do that again, and hoping maybe Daniel Kranevis, who almost got into the wall, crashes in front of him, because that's the only way he's getting spots.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult from here on in. 24 minutes to go so far, and Mark Cannon's still holding on to this lead and still got a second over Indycar Scarlett as well. It's been a good restart from him, but I just don't know why he stayed out, because he's done so many laps on this tank of fuel that he'll be needing to pit quite soon.
I wonder if he's thinking that everybody in the field is going to have to make one more stop. He'll have to make his stop much earlier than everybody else, but can everybody else who pitted under that last caution make it to the end of the race from here, or is everybody going to have to make one more stop?
Well, no, but that way they're not going to make it without stopping, but that works on the assumption that there's going to be no more cautions, which I think is a very, very difficult ask with this amount of time remaining and what we've seen so far.
Thinking if Mark Kalin, is it as impossible of a strategy as I thought it was? I think it might be a couple percentage points smarter than I thought it originally was. If we do go green the whole rest of the way, which maybe isn't going to happen, as that is Mark Kalin, speak of the devil, in turn 2, spinning out of the lead, and I would imagine bringing it down pit lane this time.
You would have thought so.
Or not.
No, he carries on. I mean, fair enough if you think his strategy's gone up a couple of percentage points, but I'll only say fair enough if it's gone from 1% to 3%, because I still don't think it's a very good idea. Out of turn 2, he's had that slide again. He had that earlier on. He had it in front of Dave Menino, if you remember, and gathers it up in a very similar way, but this time he loses 3 places.
It's unfortunate for Mark. He had a tendency to do that in stock cars. You would always see him on 1.5-mile tracks getting the rear loose and getting the tires overheated. Unfortunately, you can't correct that quite as easily in an Indy car. It does tend to lead to a spin like that. So unfortunately, the 3% strategy has now fallen back down to 1%. But Mark doesn't have any damage on that car, if that's any solace to him. We do have a legitimate fight for the race lead now, though, as Scarlett, Curnow, and O'Brien, all 3 of them are on the same strategy. They're all within draft range of each other. This is the battle for the race lead.
Just up in front of them, some drivers who got back on the lead lap, Matthew Long and Lucas Santos. So it's still dirty air for these leaders, and not because they've caught the rear end of the field all over again, but just because of the way that the restarts happened and the way that Mark Kalin lost the lead means that there are some lap cars that have unlapped themselves, and they're just going through the bottom of your screen there. So Indycar Scott's going to find this pretty difficult to get away, actually, even despite the fact she's in the lead.
Almost like a draft, almost like a DRS train, but it's a draft train where nobody is really able to move. Everybody's on identical tires, identical fuel, just a little bit of a holding pattern for the moment until those tires start to fall off, or somebody crashes again, which, as we've seen, tends to come every 10 minutes or so as the tires start to fall off.
Yeah, exactly. I find it very difficult to believe that there is going to be no more cautions left in this race. There's another example. White grazing the wall there was Santos right in front of the race leader Indycar Scarlett, who dives right into the dirty air there at 3 and 4, and so he's not going to get anywhere into the corner that time round.
She will like having a buffer if she can get around Lucas Santos. It's close quarters into turn 1, but she does get to the outside. She's got the momentum. And she's got the position. Now she does have a 1-car buffer between her and Jordan Curnow. It's going to be that much more tough for Curnow to catch her and pass her. He's got a full car worth of dirty air behind him, or ahead of him now.
Because Indycar Scarlett, one of those 4 drivers I was talking about earlier on, is consistently getting away from the rest of the field when they got clear air. Now, of course, Josh Kodker and also Brett Punkari have fallen by the wayside. They're both out, but the other rival, Matthew Long, was a lap down. Indycar Scarlett surely in a fantastic position to come home and win this race from here. However, it is still a long way to go, and anything can happen in the final 20 minutes.
James O'Brien right now is thinking about stealing second in the meantime. He's got the easier job. There's a little bit of a gap to the lap car, Lucas Santos. O'Brien has the draft, he has the momentum, but not quite close enough to think about making a move yet. He's just trying to inch forward and maybe save a little bit of tire like he did in the last stint.
He seems to be playing the patient game, which is a good game to be playing at this stage in the race. So we'll see what that brings him a little bit later on as we go on board with Patrick Calgo here. Just up ahead of him is Mark Kalin, who's really regathered himself very well since that slide through turn 2.
It's surprising that he's still out there. He's on, what, lap 50, 52 of this stint now, so he can go.
No, he's
well,
not.
he can't go any further. He's coming down pit lane this time.
And he does... Oh! Let's hope he slowed down in time. That was close. That was not quite the Matthew Long pit entrance, but it was pretty close to speeding there for Mark Kalin. Let's hope that he did get down in time, as we've got a battle here between Jean-Marc Cormier and also Willie Brennan for 10th place. A couple of drivers we haven't seen very much of. Willie Brennan ran the outside into the top 10.
Good stuff. William Brennan, not supposed to be here tonight, said he was going to miss it to do the Roar, but with that extra 30 minutes of delay, he's been able to make it happen. It's always good to see him, whether he's racing in a prototype or a GT car or a GT4 car. William and good old Hyperion Racing. We love seeing them wherever they are, and we love seeing a driver like Jean-Marc Cormier, who, unlike William Brennan, is a new name to the PRL. Seeing him around here for the first time.
If someone can lend him some paint for the top of the car, that'd be good. Looks like he's got the standard sort of white car, doesn't he, when we go on board with the T-Cam?
I like it. It's shiny.
But yeah, he's gone for the red down the sides instead. There you go, simple livery. It's 11th place for him though so far in the 77, just in behind Willie Brennan. The only problem is he's about half a lap from going a lap down, and that could be a concern if this long run continues.
By the way, Mark Kalin fans, you're in luck. No pit lane penalty. He did not speed. He did get it slowed down in spectacular fashion, and he is now running on the same strategy as Lucas Santos and Matthew Long, essentially. So see how that evens out in the grand scheme of this race. If Mark Kalin can go the rest of the way and everybody else has to pit, you never know. Mark Kalin could pull off a remarkable IndyCar oval win. In the meantime, Brandon Walter and Jake Vasconcelos are having a remarkable battle in their own right. And Vasconcelos is losing the backstretch, and Brandon Walter, incredible save, lost the rear end on the backstretch at about 200 miles per hour and somehow doesn't hit the wall. Jordan Kernow, though, in the meantime, from second place, right next to Indica Scarlet, has made a scheduled pit stop.
Very interesting with 16.5 minutes remaining. This would bring him to the end of the race. Now, is he covering off Kalin or something? I don't really know. This is what happened to Brandon Walter, by the way. This is going to be quite something to watch on. He's getting a good run. You can see it happening, but just as he wanted to pull to the left-hand side and get around Vasconcelos there, just lost the rear end completely and avoided a bigger accident.
An incredible save from Brandon Walter. Maybe the save of the season so far. Got to make sure not to let it get into the endless cycle of overheating the rear tires and letting that happen again, because now Christian McCrelly gets by him, and Walter does get loose again in the dirty air in turn 2.
Yeah, this is... They're going to be giving him flashbacks now, isn't it, Brandon Walter, from that moment a few laps ago where he very nearly saw his race end prematurely. Here he comes in towards turn 2. Really wants that outside line, doesn't he? Turn 1 and 2, but he's not quite getting anywhere. Now he's alongside. Now he's going to get the run. Now he's got 7th place.
Still looks a little bit wiggly though. We'll see if McCrelly can repay the favor and get back there. Can see 14th place on the pylon. Jordan Kernow has come out of pit lane about a second ahead of Mark Kalin. You can actually see him coming onto your screen right now. Is on his fresh tires. He's making his way through McCrelly and Walter, trying to get his lap back. Kernow does still have the advantage of about a second over Mark Kalin on very similar strategies.
Yeah, but they're still going to need everybody else to come in and make a green flag pit stop. And if they don't, then they're going to be a long way down the back of the field with either a lot of work to do on a caution restart, or they're going to be even worse, a lap down. That was nearly 3 wide as Brandon Walter there gets past windows, and look at that. That's one of the lap cars, is it? Trying to unlap themselves.
Yeah, Kurnow splitting the middle on those fresh tires. He said, I'm not waiting up at all. You guys can fight as much as you want, but I'm about 2 seconds a lap faster than you guys. I'm coming through.
You can see the difference between the old and the new tyres there that was sort of writ large on your screen. Walter and Swindles on the older tyres. I think that's Kaelin coming through as well on newer tyres. So that's something that everyone would be worried about. Maybe that is why Kurnow decided to come in and cover off Kaelin, because he knew that if he left it too long, they would get undercut.
Got to give Richard Swindells a lot of credit too. In a race of attrition, he has not been part of that attrition. He's made up 15 spots, and he is looking for yet another top 10 in an open wheel car in the PRL. Kranifus and Vasconcelos, though, this battle has not let up whatsoever, and Kranifus isn't letting up either, getting inches away from the wall in turn 2.
Well, speaking of which, Vasconcelos then right up against the wall through 3 and 4, but not on the exit like normal, but actually right throughout the corner as well. There's plenty of different lines you can take here on this speedway, and we're seeing pretty much all of them being utilised here throughout this race. Entering through the middle here, just going a little bit lower, and then out wide next to the wall. Vasconcelos holding on well at the moment to a top 5 position, will be his second of the season.
And the gap has closed up front as well. It was once nearly 2 seconds separating Indycar Scarlett and James O'Brien. Now it's only about half, and it's getting smaller and smaller with every lap. Yet again, it seems like O'Brien may have done a better job of saving the tires, and I don't know if it's lap traffic, I don't know what it is, but O'Brien is coming back into this and maybe the upset.
Maybe. Oh, what was going on there?
I think this is what's holding Indycar Scarlett up. It's Matthew Long trying to fight to keep his spot in the lead lap. But Indycar says, no, you're not going to stay on the lead lap. I am the race leader. I'll keep you in second.
I think, by the way, that Brett Thurbin was spun around trying to enter pit lane.
Oh dear.
Somebody was definitely facing some sort of wrong direction as we were looking through turn 4 there. But yeah, Scarlett now is through. And look at how much it's easier. James O'Brien found that. Once the lap car is put 1 lap down, they don't really care how many cars on the lead lap they are a lap down 2. They just care that they're off the lead lap, and so James O'Brien was given a lot less of a hard time.
Now with no cars between him and our race leader, can O'Brien bring this down? Can he take the race lead away from Indycar Scarlett? You can see the effect of the draft already. Gap has come down by about 1/10 as he gets closer and closer. It's only going to become that much more powerful. We've got a 2-car fight for the lead again. James is coming.
We certainly have. Less than 12 minutes to go here. It's a nice long green flag run towards the latter end of this race, and hopefully it continues on. And oh no, it's not going to! O'Brien, big slide, he saves it somehow through 3 and 4.
That was bizarre, but as he got closer than he's been to another car for the first time in a while, clearly the aerodynamics reacting very, very differently than O'Brien thought they would. I thought for a second he was coming down pit lane. I thought he was making his green flag pit stop, but that was very much not deliberate.
Same. Yeah, but so weird. He seemed to clip the apron completely back. So very unlike him to make that sort of error. Just really, really odd. And that's given Indycar Scarlett a very big lead now. As long as she's not been undercut by the likes of Kaelin and Kurnow too much, then she's going to be comfortable in the lead of this race.
And Patrick Cowgill's been given second as well. He was able to get by O'Brien, and O'Brien gets held up by Matthew Long in turn 2 for good measure. A frustrating sequence elapsed for James O'Brien. Sends it down to the bottom to try and get by Long. He's going to be somewhat effective in doing that, but your race leader is in. Indycar Scarlett has made her final stop of the race under green flag conditions. Got it slowed down for pit lane easily, but now we got to watch the blend with Jordan Kurnow and Mark Kaelin.
Well, that was close. Kranifus and Vasconcelos there were pretty close to contact. And Vasconcelos is going backwards. He's going to get unlapped by somebody further down as Indycar Scarlett drops down the field. Just about gets it into a box without having to reverse or do anything like that. So where is Kurnow going to be in the 3-4-4? Indycar Scarlett back underway again, just over 8 seconds. Where's Jordan Kurnow? It's through. So 10 minutes to go, and Scarlett knows exactly what she has to do to get that lead back again.
Kurnow's through. Mark Kaelin is through as well. So Mark Kaelin up into second place in this race. Jake Vasconcelos making his final stop. About 12 more drivers still need to make one final stop. Patrick Cowgill staying out. James O'Brien down pit lane this time. Daniel Cranifus with him as well. But both of these guys are about 4 seconds off the lead, so they're going to need a very lucky run down pit lane to contend for this win.
It's going to need to be a bit of a miracle, really, as they work their way down towards the box. It's pretty difficult to slow these cars up for the box itself, by the way. You've got to practice slowing down in time. Even at those low speeds, the brakes don't work brilliantly well. And you've got to practice it. There goes O'Brien out onto the circuit again, just over 8 seconds. That's going to be pretty easy for Indycar Scarlett to get back through again, as he looks on the outside here at Mark Kalin in towards turns 1 and 2. And that wasn't Mark Kalin, was it? Scarlett's still behind him.
Similarly colored Brandon Walter.
I apologize.
That is a good point, though, because Indycar Scarlett is on 20-lap fresher tires than both Kalin and Kurnow, so she might have a 3-second gap up to Mark Kalin. She might have a 5-second gap up to Jordan Kurnow right now, but she is on much fresher tires, and she's got to be on the chase for the final 8 minutes of this race.
Absolutely. There is Jean-Marc Cormier coming into the pit lane from the top 5. Surely there are still pit stops yet to come. I don't think any of the top 6 can make it from here, but Jordan Kurnow can. Will there be a caution to just throw it into the mix here? It would be very late if there is one from here, but the courses have been pretty quick, so he would get a restart for sure.
And Patrick Cowgill, by virtue of going this long, he's going to get an extra point for leading a lap, and also his pit stop is going to be shorter than anybody behind him. I don't know if it's going to be shorter enough for it to necessarily matter, because on that last lap in clean air, he ran a 26.3. Last lap for Indycar Scarlett, 25.7. New tires are worth at least 0.6 of a second right now, and Patrick Cowgill's got the race leader on new tires, Jordan Kurnow, behind him.
Well, I'm not sure that Kurnow is losing enough time to Indycar Scarlett to lose the lead at the moment. I think it's his race to lose. It looks like his undercut might have just paid off, but let's see though, as he's in the dirty air, and he's, of course, tyres will be wearing a lot quicker. 0.2 of a second last time, but he's got 4.5 seconds over Indycar Scarlett here with 7 minutes to go.
The expected race leader, Jordan Kurnow, gets his lap back from the current race leader, Patrick Cowgill. Patrick is going to extend this for as long as humanly possible, though. He knows that's kind of what he has to do. He was going to be in the fight for the podium. He wants to fight for the win. He wants to hope for a lucky caution, something that'll get him in the fray. Doesn't look like it's going to come, though. Christian McCrelly coming out of pit lane down to the bottom of your screen. And once again, you'll see the difference in fresh tires, even not at full speed out of the pits. Look at McCrelly run away with this thing.
And he's going to come in pit lane. His car slows down on the racetrack. He's lucky there was no one right behind him, as otherwise he would have been crashed into. As Dave Menino also comes in to the pit lane along with Patrick Cowgill as well. Menino's going to drop a long way down. He's going to struggle to get into the top 10 is Dave Menino, unfortunately. So it's going to be damage limitation for him in this second round of the championship, as Lucas Santos hit 4th place. Oh, very nearly hit as he comes to pit lane as well.
Richard Swindell's had to look out the front of that car to make sure he didn't hit him. Do have to watch Patrick Cowgill's time, though. He had a lockup on pit lane entry. No speeding penalty for him. No speeding penalty for Lucas Santos either. So very well behaved. A green flag pit stop in an IndyCar is an exceptionally difficult thing to do, and Santos realizes that a little bit further down pit lane than he wanted to, and he's going to have to turn it right, turn it left. He was too close to the wall. This is painful.
Oh, it is. It's like trying to park when you're 17, isn't it? There he goes. He's finally up on the jacks, and he's getting his service. That was a well-executed pit entry, but not a very good pit box entry, I'm afraid, for him. Brandon Walter's still going. Is he saving fuel to try and win this by some sort of miracle? He's pulling to the inside now. I would suggest that this is finally his pit stop with 5 minutes to go. That would still be a good 11-12 laps of fuel to save, so he was never going to manage it, and so now he has to come into pit lane. He barely gets it in, but he is from the lead.
Well done, Brandon, getting it slowed down. Have to imagine that former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan will bring it down this lap as well, lap 50 of this stint. Not seeing it yet, though. Willie's been able to save a little bit of fuel. He'll get a lap lead point. Walter misses his pit stall as well. and that will drop him down to the end of the top 10. Brennan getting a little bit of screen time. Lap car of Christian McCrelly behind him. Better hope McCrelly clears him quickly, because I would have thought he would have brought it down pit lane this time, but no. Brennan has saved some fuel. He is going to be able to go even longer.
Well, even if he's saved enough to somehow go to the end of the race here with Jordan Kernow outfoxed, I think we're only 1.2 seconds. He's going to be caught there, and there's going to be a battle for the lead. So we'll see if Willie Brennan can pull off some sort of miracle, but it doesn't look like he's going to. Now he's defending the inside line. He's actually going in early. I mean, this might be the better idea, to be honest with you. Pulling down on the apron. Now it's slower through 3 and 4, but it is a bit safer. So Willie Brennan pits in from the lead, and he will certainly
Takes out the cone for good measure.
Yeah,
will probably get a pit lane
easier.
entry penalty for that, but alas, getting himself a lap lead point for good measure. I think speeding down pit lane as well. But anyway, you can now see the legitimate fight for the win and for the podium of this race. On the pylon, Indycar Scarlet gets by Mark Kalin for second, and William Brennan does have a pit lane speeding penalty as the clock ticks over 8 seconds. That's what that means. Scarlet to the inside of Kalin for second. This should be an easy move. She's on 20 lap fresher tires than Kalin. And now she sets her sights forward to one more car. It's Scarlet versus Kernow for this win.
So 8 laps to go, probably needs close to half a second in terms of gains per lap here, Indycar Scarlet. She wants some chances to pass here at the end of this race. Should be 7 to go now as they cross the line. 2.1, 2.2 seconds the margin. She knows exactly what's required now to try and win this race, and needs to try and use those new tyres to go and get it.
Mark Kalin knows it's probably going to be third place. He's got to make sure to hold on to the car, though. Some big wiggles through 1 and 2 that time. You saw him getting a little bit frustrated. Now he runs up in the top in 3 and 4. You're not fighting for second anymore, Mark. You just got to hold on to this car, and you've got third. Scarlet across the line that time, 4/10 faster than Jordan Kernow. That's a big chunk, but she's got to keep doing that lap by lap by lap.
Yeah, that has to happen again. That has to happen again these next 2, 3, 4 laps. Otherwise, she's not going to make it in time. Kenneth's running so close to the wall, by the way. He's not keeping pace with Indycar Scarlet, and just in behind him, Jean-Marc Cormier is going to try and overtake him here, I think, in the next few laps. So it's that's going to be a pretty easy pass. But last time round, another 3 attempts gained by Indycar Scarlet. This is going to be really close.
It's going to come down to the wire. 2 new names to the PRL, Jordan Kernow and Indycar Scarlet. Both had clean days at Spa last week. And now fighting for their first ever wins in the PRL. That time was not quite as good for Scarlet. She was actually slower by about half a tenth. But William Brennan may play a role in this race. He is on much, much fresher tires than Jordan Kernow. He knows he's not fighting for the race win, but you're on fresher tires, you're in the draft. There's only so much you can do to stay out of this.
I think these last 2 laps have just done it for Indycar Scarlet here in terms of the fact he's not quite going to make it. And there was lap traffic there as well, which might have just done it for her. 1.5 tenths there only. Now really needs half a second plus. She wants to get there. There might still be 3 laps to go when we get to the line here, but it's going to be so difficult. Oh no, caution!
Mark Kalin was dealing with an evil car, and he's finally spun it on the backstretch. It's a little bit of bodywork flying as well. I think somebody else may have been involved there. But that will be the end of it. The chase is over, and Jordan Kernow, in what I believe is his 2nd race in the PRL, is going to be going to victory lane already.
Yeah, fantastic performance. Strategy, the one that's won out. This is the caution that sealed the deal. It's a big slide that he's been saving all afternoon, but he's this time made contact with somebody else, and he's been sent around the wrong way. He's done well at saving the car, to be honest, Kaden, on multiple occasions, but not that time.
Mark will still finish in the top 10, so it's not the end of the world, but with that spin, James O'Brien takes the last spot on the podium. I think white flag is going to be in the air here for Jordan Kernow, so a little bit of a victory lap for a driver who went off strategy early and somehow is going to pick up a win in the PRL IndyCar Fixed Series. White flag is in the air, 1.5 miles to go, and pace race car speed for Jordan Kurnow.
Yeah, inspired strategy for Jordan Kurnow. Thoroughly deserved victory. Indycar Scarlett just coming up alongside him to congratulate him, no doubt. But that chase was on towards the end, but I think he was going to make it anyway in terms of the race win here. Just pitting that little bit early, getting that undercut was surprisingly effective, and I think a lot of people were drawn into the thinking that I was going along with, really, that there would be another caution, and so it's not really worth worrying about those guys who pit in early. They're only going to be in trouble later on, but actually that just didn't turn out to be the case. We got a nice long green flag run towards the end there, and that maybe caught a few people off guard, but Kurnow was very wise to it. Pitted early, got that time gained when he was on new tyres versus everybody else on the old ones. He was able to just about hang on to the win.
Two drivers who do not have big profiles in the PRL. Indycar Scarlett had 6 starts in the PRL prior to this. Jordan Kurnow had 1 start at Spa last week, but that 1 start was exceptionally impressive. He started 18th, finished 6th at Spa, and now the Jordan Kurnow Championship Challenge is on, as in only his 2nd race in the PRL, Jordan Kurnow wins at Kansas.
6th place at Spa and victory here at Kansas. What an interesting season it's going to be, with last week's winner Dave Menino finishing down in 11th place, Jake Vasconcelos finishing in 6th place after 2nd place last week. It's going to be a very, very interesting season indeed, with nobody quite dominating just yet.
And a post-race penalty, it looked like, for Mark Kalin. Not sure if that's gonna stand, but he did finish 8th on the track, I believe, and he's been demoted to 13th at the end of 1 lap down, but that'll be resolved. No changes needed for Jordan Kurnow as he lights up the tires across the line. He's got to figure out if he knows how to do burnouts in an Indycar. Easiest place to do it is the grass.
There he goes, celebrating a well-deserved win in the grass. Not very long though, he's decided he's had enough.
Jordan Kurnow, in only his 2nd race in the PRL, goes to victory lane. Indycar Scarlett put up an excellent fight as well for her own measure. Those two going to be fighting it out on the ovals this season, we can guarantee. James O'Brien, solid run from him, from 5th to 3rd, up front all day. Daniel Cranifus and Patrick Cowgill round out the top 5. Jake Vasconcelos up 7 spots. He finishes 6th. Brandon Walter, Christian McCrelly, Richard Swindells, and last week's winner Dave Menino round out the top 10. Matthew Long and Lucas Santos, an unlucky caution, stuck both of them 1 lap down. Mark Kalin, penalized at the end of the race, may finish 7th, may finish 13th, who knows. William Brennan, lucky to be here tonight, picks up a 14th. Ken Miller was 3 laps down behind him. Jean-Marc Cormier and Brett Thurman finished 5 and 7 laps down respectively. And then we get into the used car lot of heavily damaged cars. Steve Baker had a big crash. Brett Punkari fighting for the win today. Look for him in the ovals this season despite this 19th place finish. Nicholas Collender rounded out the top 20. And then 5 more cars. Joshua Chinsky, unlucky for him. Josh Conker, unlucky for him. Mark McDonald, Guillaume Potvin, Greg Seitz, and Nathan Ray. A lot of fast drivers, a lot of big names down at the bottom of the order. But as we wait for our race winner, Jordan Kurnow, I say we'll go from the bottom up. We'll start with 3rd place, Mr. James O'Brien. First PRL IndyCar oval race for every driver in this field. And you were up front all day, 5th to 3rd.
Yeah, I think I could have won it if I didn't make a stupid mistake trying to change my fuel black box, but I'm just glad I didn't wreck the car. I held on to it, but I was wicked fast on low fuel, and after I figured out how to adjust the car, I think I was like half a second a lap faster at the end than everybody, so I'm looking forward to the next oval race. That's all I can say.
I can only imagine, and it seems like with a race as dramatic as today, with drama at Spa last week as well, it seems like consistency is going to win this championship. Do you think you can keep this up with 7 more weeks to go?
I hope so. That's what I'm kind of good at. Road is not as my forte as ovals, but it's a challenge for me to practice them more and get better. And I'll just lean on my oval expertise that I have to just have nice, clean, consistent finishes like I usually do, and try to just finish well. This was a lot of fun. I was kind of scared about this car because I couldn't really handle it in practice, but after I put some laps in, I really, really enjoy it now, and it's a lot of fun to drive, and there's so much strategy to driving it with like your adjustments in race and how hard to push, what line to use. It's just so, and then you could take air off other people. It was so much fun. I'm really looking forward to the next oval.
James, congrats on the podium, and we'll see you next week at a road course at Lime Rock.
Oh, hell yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
James O'Brien, P3 tonight in the 33, P2 in the 66. Indica Scarlett's with us, and she'll be talking to Ewan.
Indica, welcome in. Congratulations on second, but are you tinged with disappointment a little bit that you couldn't quite get to the win?
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, it's really hard to time. You know, it's a timed race, so it's hard to time everything. So, you know, it was a good run, but I definitely could have had the win today.
Did the undercut surprise you a little bit from Jordan Kerr? Now, I've got to say, it took me off guard a little bit this afternoon. I didn't think there was going to be such an undercut that there was. Were you expecting it particularly?
I mean, I knew that the undercut would be valuable, and so I was trying to time it myself, and of course you don't want to do it and then have the caution come out, so you're weighing all of these things. Yeah, I mean, I could tell that he was struggling with his tires. We came up to some lapped cars, you know, kind of causing an issue there. They probably slowed me down a little bit. Maybe all things considered, like if there were no lapped cars around, maybe I could have gotten him. But, you know, I led a bunch of laps today. I'm pretty happy with that. First podium here in PRL, so I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, all very positive. Congratulations on second, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Yep, just shout out to my girlfriend, letting me do all this stuff, and I had a few friends apparently watching too.
All right, congratulations. Second place star, Indycar Scarlett in the number 66, getting second place, first of the season.
We love to hear people bringing their fans, bringing their friends into the YouTube chat. Bring them all. Share it with everybody. But yeah, that will be the last driver we talked to tonight, unfortunately, because Jordan Kerr now not seeing his face in the old Discord. So hopefully we'll get to talk to our first-time race winner next week. Hopefully we'll get to talk to Jordan Kerr now. But either way, first IndyCar oval race in nearly 7 years, Ewan. That went very excitingly and very dramatically.
It certainly did. There were less cautions than I was expecting at times, especially in the first half of the race when there was quite a lot. You know, you fear a little bit about what it might be like. But no, it was good racing in the end. A couple of weeks away from the ovals now, of course, at Lime Rock and Mid-Ohio. But we'll be back again for Worldwide Technology Raceway in 3 weeks' time. The easiest of all the names. So look forward to that. But in the meantime, road course racing. Looking forward to getting back to that with Lime Rock Park, which is quite frankly a circuit small, maybe even too small for these cars. But looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Exciting times. 2 states I love, Connecticut and Ohio. 2 in a row. It'll be a good time. There will be 4 more days of PRL racing this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We hope you'll join us for every one of them. But until we see you next time, I've been Joey Tebbin. Ewan O'Leary's been Ewan O'Leary. Our producer has been Hugo Luis. So long.